Hi, I'm Kelly and thanks for joining me today where we will be making this Procyon hat. It's a really basic half double crochet hat with a simple cable and then a nice ribbing. I named it the Procyon hat because I name all my patterns after stars, and Procyon is the main star in the constellation Canis Minor, which is the little dog, and that constellation actually only has 2 stars in a straight line, just like this cable. So that's where the name comes from. But if you have any problems making this hat, I don't think you will because it's pretty easy, but you can leave a comment and I will try to help you. You can also find the written pattern on my Ravelry page, and I will put the link to that in the description as well. So let's get started. All right, so let's get started making our hat. I've set out all my materials here. I have our worsted weight yarn. This is Big Twist. I've got our pom-pom, which is obviously optional. I've got cute little measuring tape. We'll need a yarn needle and scissors when we get towards the end. We're going to use some stitch markers, and then I've got my hook that's a 5.5 and a 5mm, and I'm not going to use this one until the ribbing, so I'm going to set that aside. So we're going to start out by making a flat circle, which is the most standard way to make a top-down hat. And there is more than one way to start out a crochet circle, but the way that I like to do it is to, of course, put the slip knot on the hook, chain 2, and then we're going to work all our stitches from this first round into the second loop from the hook, second stitch from the hook. And we're going to do half double crochets, so yarn over, and I usually don't worry about whether I'm on under 1 loop or under 2 or on the back hump. Just choose a stitch and stay with it. Choose a loop and stay with it. So insert your hook, yarn over, and pull through. Now you've got 3 loops on your hook, yarn over and pull through all 3. That's our first half double crochet. We're going to do 9 more just like that. Put your hook, yarn over, insert your hook into that same spot, pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through all 3. And this will probably, depending on your yarn and your tension, make a bit of a hole here in the middle because we're stretching out that stitch as we keep putting more into it. But when you get done and you weave in your end of your yarn tail, just weave it around that circle and pull it tight and it will just disappear. All right, I've been talking, let me count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Need 1 more, and there's 10. I do always recommend on each round when you're counting, well, first off, I recommend counting your stitches at the end of every round. And secondly, I recommend doing it before you join. I think it makes it a lot more clear to see your stitches. And I'm actually going to put a stitch marker in the first and the last stitch that I made of this round, and every round as we go along. First off, if you have a hard time once you join telling where your stitches are, this way you'll know for sure you got it right. Let me demonstrate real quick. If I slip stitch into this first stitch I made, and pull through, now you can see there's this little loop right here that if you were coming around making your next row, you'd almost want to make a stitch right there. And that's why I'm using these stitch markers, just to make sure that I don't ever accidentally get that. You don't have to use the stitch markers, it's optional. And also, usually when I make hats, I make them with this right side facing every time. This time we're going to be turning, so this is just an extra visual cue for me personally. So this is the end of round 1. We've got 10 stitches. For round 2, we're going to chain 1 and turn, or turn and chain 1, it never really matters. And we're going to put 2 half double crochet into each stitch. And again, this is that not really a stitch that we're going to skip. We're going to put 2 half double crochets into the last stitch we made on round 1, which we've marked with a marker. And then we're going to move that marker up. We made 2 stitches into this one, so I know I want to go back to the second one, or the first one of the round, depending on how you want to think about it, and mark that. And then I'm going to do 2 half double crochet into each stitch all the way around. And then I'm going to count my stitches to make sure that I have 20. I'm going to move up my stitch markers, and then I'll meet you there. Okay, so here's the end of round 2. I have counted, I have 20 stitches. I've moved the stitch marker up into the last stitch that I've created on this round, and then I'm going to slip stitch into the same stitch. And that's the end of round 2. For round 3, we're going to continue on in a standard way of making a flat crochet circle. Just chain 1 and turn. I'm going to put 1 half double crochet in the first stitch. I'm going to move that stitch marker up so I always know which one was my first stitch of the round. I'm going to put 2 double crochet in the next one. I'm going to follow that around. 1 in the first stitch, 2 in the next stitch. Can you hear my acrylic yarn squeaking a little? Pull it up. That really bothers some people. It doesn't really bother me that much. Sometimes it's more audible than others, especially the humidity or if your hands are a little sweaty. So I'm going to continue this around for round 3, putting 1 half double crochet in the first stitch and 2 half double crochets in the next stitch, and then I'm going to count and make sure I have 30. All right, I finished round 3. I've counted that I have 30 stitches. I've moved up my stitch marker, and I'm going to slip stitch to join. And now it's time to stop and check our gauge. So I'm going to pull a big loop up so that I don't lose it. Lay it down. Make sure that I have about 2.8 to 3 inches. My prototype that I made came out a little closer to 2.8. This one's a little closer to 3, depending on, how flat you pull your circle down. And anywhere in that general vicinity is good enough. A hat, I don't think needs to be as perfectly precise. It's going to be a little bit stretchy. And while we're at it, let's talk a little bit about making a hat. Generally, you want to make a flat circle until you reach, it's supposed to be about 1/3 of the measurement around your head. So if you have like a 21-inch head, then you'd make your flat circle about 7 inches. Again, I don't feel like hats need to be super precise. I usually put my palm down, and when my hand just about fits it, that's when I stop my increases. And from there, you stop making a flat circle, you stop making increases, and it pulls down around your ears and becomes a hat shape. And normally the way you do that is the number of stitches that you had in your first round, you will make that many more stitches in each following round. So we've got 10 stitches in round 1, we'll have 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 as we go along. But here we're going to be making that cable in the middle, so we're just going to kind of approximate that. And because we're approximating it, if you lose count, you have 1 stitch in the wrong place, don't sweat it. What you want to concentrate on is that your circle is flat. If it starts to ruffle up or it starts to cup up, then maybe go back and for ruffling, take out a stitch or 2. For cupping, put in a stitch or 2. Create a flat circle is more important than exactly matching the stitch count in the pattern. That said, let's go ahead to round 4. Round 4 is the one we're going to start our cable in. So chain 1 and turn. I'm going to put 1 half double crochet in the first stitch. Move up our stitch marker. And 1 half double crochet in the next one. Then we're going to do an increase, which is 2 half double crochets in the next stitch, and then we're going to repeat that. One half double, and 2 half doubles. That's for a second time. I know it's confusing because they're the same phrases as for other stitches, but in my mind, when I'm doing something like this, I count it out to myself and I go single, because I'm putting a single stitch there, single, and double. So I would do that in my head all the way around. Single, single, double, single, single, double. So for our pattern, we're going to repeat that 4 times. So I have 1, 2, increase once, 1, 2, increase twice, 2, increase 3 times, 1, 2, increase 4 times. So I'm going to put 1 half double crochet in the next stitch and place a marker in it. That's going to be in every round the last stitch before we begin our cable. So let's do our cables. We're going to do a front post treble crochet around the half double crochet 2 rows below. So first off, for a treble crochet, yarn over twice, and then we're going to find the half double crochet 2 rows below. Here's one in the 1 row below where we would normally be making a stitch, but instead we're going to go down here to the second one. And we don't want to go into the hole at the stitch, we want to go around the post of that stitch. So insert your stitch, insert your hook from right to left around the post of that stitch. And honestly, if you have a hard time telling which one of these stitches it is, at this point it's not crucial. Just get around the post of the one that appears to be straight down. So yarn over and pull through that post, yarn over and pull through 2, yarn over and pull through 2, yarn over and pull through 2. And after you've completed that front post treble crochet, you want the top of the stitch to be roughly in line with these others. When I first started learning to do post stitches into lower stitches, I'd do them real tight and it would almost like squish up the stitch. Just be sure that you're not doing that. Pull up each little yarn over a little bit higher if you need to in order to get it to stay roughly even. The next thing we're going to do is work 2 front post treble crochets around the next half double crochet from the round below, from 2 rounds below. So go around, yarn over twice, go around the post of the next stitch, work your treble crochet, and then we're going to do another one around that same post. So yarn over twice, kind of pull that one forward so that you can get behind it. Go around the same post, and create your next half double. I'm sorry, not half double, front post treble. So you've got 1 front post treble around this one, 2 front post trebles around this one, and we're going to do our 4th front post treble around the post of the next half double crochet 2 rounds below. I apologize for this yarn being so squeaky. It didn't seem this way yesterday when no one was listening. So then we've got our 4 front post treble crochets. And now we need to continue along with our half double crochets around the next part of the hat. And to do that, we need to skip 4 stitches behind the post stitches. So here we can see the stitch where we last worked a half double crochet. It's this one right here. So we're going to skip 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and we're going to put a stitch marker. And as we go along this hat, every round, when we put a stitch into the stitches with the markers, we'll move up the stitch so that we always have 4 empty stitches here. And we will never do any kind of increases in these 4 stitches. So the next thing we want to do is to put 2 half double crochets in this marked stitch. So there's the first one. We'll move up our stitch marker. And the second one. And they're going to resume the pattern we were doing, which was 1 half double in the next stitch and 2 half double in the next one. Keep doing that all the way around. You know what, I made a mistake. We're doing 2 half doubles between our increases. So we've got 2 half double crochets in the first stitch after the cable, and then we're going to do 1 half double crochet in each of the next 2 stitches, and then an increase in the next one. This is why I stop and count at the end of every round, even when I don't think I've made any kind of mistake, because sometimes you can just be cruising along and mistakes can happen. I'm about to do it for the last time. 1 in the next one, 1 in the next one, 2 in the last one. And be sure when you move up your stitch marker, you put it into the very last one that was completed. And now, since we're on the 4th row, we should have 40 stitches if we were doing our increases the proper way. But of course, we missed at least 1 here when we did our cables. So we should have 39. So let's just count that out real quick. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 2, 4, 6, 8, 20, 2, 4, 6, 8, 30, 2, 4, 6, 8, 9. So as we go along, our stitch counts are no longer going to be precise, but that's not a problem. Don't let it panic you. Just keep your circle flat. So that's the end of round 4. For round 5, chain 1 turn and 1 half double crochet in the first stitch, and move up our stitch marker. In this one, we're going to be putting 1 half double crochet in 3 stitches and then doing an increase. So 1, 2, 3, increase. 1, 2, 3, increase. 1, 2, 3, increase. 1, 2, 3, increase. Since we're on the wrong side of this hat, the back side, the inside, we're not going to make cable stitches on this side. We're just going to go straight through with half double crochets. But I also don't want to do increases in here. So at this point, we're going to deviate from the standard circle making formula and do 1 half double crochet in each of the next 6 stitches. So 1, 2, move up that stitch marker. 3, 4, 5, 6, and then we're going to do 2 half double crochet in the next stitch. There's the first one. Move up our stitch marker. And there's the second one. And then we're going to resume our hat making formula. 1, 2, 3, and an increase. And I'll do that on around to the end of the round and meet you back there. Okay, so I'm at the end of round 5. Oops, my yarn got tangled up. In the end of round 5, I've counted my stitches. I have 48. I've moved up my stitch marker, and then we'll slip stitch to join. And then we'll begin round 6, which is the first round where we're going to do the crossed cable. So chain 1 and turn, and we're going to put a half double crochet in each of the next 4 stitches, and then do an increase, which is your standard way of increasing a flat circle as of right now. So 1, 2, 3, 4, increase. 1, 2, 3, 4, increase. Oops, it's my tail coming up to visit. 1, 2, 3, 4, increase. And I believe this will be the last time. 1, 2, 3, 4, increase. And then we're going to do 1 half double crochet in each of these next 2 stitches. And move up our stitch marker. Here's where we're going to begin our front post treble crochet crossed cable. We're going to use the front post treble crochets again, so yarn over twice, and then we're going to do them out of order. So instead of starting with the first one here, we're going to go around the post of the 3rd front post double crochet from 2 rows below. So yarn over twice, insert your hook from right to left around that post, yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull up 2 and 2 and 2, and then we're going to go around this next one, yarn over twice, and again make sure that the tops of your stitches are roughly even up here. Don't let them pull down too far. And now we're going to cross in front of these to go back and get the 2 down here that we missed. So yarn over twice and go way back over here, kind of fold your fabric and get around the post of the first of those 4 stitches we made. And then you can kind of see it hiding in there. There's that second one. So go around that one. And there is our crossed cable stitches. You can see 2 in the back and the 2 in the front. So we're going to do 2 half double crochets in the next stitch, which is our marked stitch. So there's the first one. Move up our stitch marker. And our second one. And then we're going to resume our standard hat formula, which is 1 in each of the next 4. There's 2, 3, 4, and 2 in the next. And then I'll meet you at the end. All right, so I have done my 1, 2, 3, 4 increase all the way around. And when I get to the last stitch, I'll just have to put 1 single half double crochet there, 1 solitary half double crochet there to finish the round. I'll move up my stitch marker. And I've already counted my stitches. I do have 57. And my piece does lay flat. The cable stitches stick up a bit, of course, but we've still got that. essentially flat. So let's slip stitch, and that's the end of round 6. And now for round 7, this is where it goes quite a bit off the standard formula of making a circle, because I just needed to add a few more stitches to get it to fit. If you have a smaller head, you could leave out a couple of increases here. If you have a bigger head, you could add in a couple if you just like your hat a bit looser. I think I have a pretty average size head, and I like my hats slightly loose. So I'm going to increase until I have 63 stitches. If you like your hats a little tighter, you might do 62. If you have a pretty big head, you might do 65. And then you can just put in an increase kind of evenly spaced around. You don't have to exactly follow my steps here if you want to change the size of the hat. So we're going to chain 1 and turn, and we're going to do a half double crochet in each of the next 8 stitches. So here's 1, 2, that yarn just keeps getting squeakier, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then 2 stitches in the next. And we're going to do the same spacing, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and an increase. And next we're going to do 1 in each of the next 7. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 2 in the next, and then we're going to do 1 half double crochet in each of the next 8. So starting here is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, move up our stitch marker, 7, and 8, and then we're going to resume our pattern of putting an increase after the 8, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and an increase. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, increase, and then we'll just put a solitary half double crochet in each of the last stitches. And if I was going to add just 1 increase, I'd probably be tempted to put it right here at the end. Let's go ahead and move up our stitch markers. I'm going to stop and count and make sure that I do have 63, and I'll be right back. All right, so I just completed round 7. I counted, I did have 63 stitches, moved up my stitch marker, joined my round. And you can see that this is laying flat with the exception of some bumps where the cables are. And like I mentioned before, I usually just kind of stop when this is about the size of my hand. This one's maybe a little bit smaller than my hand, but this is quite a stretchy stitch. So if you want a shortcut and you don't have a measuring tape around, just use your hand. Pretty close. So let's start round 8. Which will be where we start our repeating pattern with no increases. So I've slip stitched, chain 1 and turn, and now I'm just going to put a half double crochet all the way around until we hit our stitch markers. And at this point, that's like 30 stitches or something, so I will just meet you over there. All right, so I've worked my half double crochet around, and I'm getting ready to put half double crochet into the marked stitch. So put that in, move the stitch marker up. And now we're going to put 1 front post treble crochet in each front post treble crochet from below in order. We're not going to make crosses this time. So yarn over twice, go around the first one that you come to, not the first one we created. Well, actually it's both. The first one that you come to. Do your front post treble. Make sure that you find it kind of hiding back there and go around the post to the second one. And then our third one. So we've got our 4 front post treble crochets without crossing. And then we'll do a half double crochet into the marked stitch. And then we'll just do 1 half double crochet all the way around. All right, so I've gone all the way around and put 1 half double crochet into each of these stitches. This is what our cable looks like. Now we're ready to slip stitch to join. Oops. Slip stitch to join, chain 1 and turn, and we're ready to begin round 9. Round 9 is 1 half double crochet in each stitch all the way around. So we'll move up our stitch marker and then begin 1 half double crochet all the way around, and I'll meet you at the end. And here we are at the end of round 9. I've counted, I have 63 half double crochet all the way around, moved up my stitch marker into my last stitch, and a slip stitch into the first stitch from the round, chain 1 and turn, and I'm ready to start round 10. Round 10 is the one where we're going to cross our front post treble crochets again. But it starts out just as you'd expect with a lot of half double crochets. So I'll work my half double crochets up to my marked stitch and I'll meet you there. All right, so I'm going to put a half double crochet into my marked stitch, move up my stitch marker, and this time I'm going to cross my front post treble crochets. So I'm going to do them 1, 2, 3, 4. So yarn over twice and work around that third one. twice, insert your hook around the post of the fourth one. Yarn over twice, insert your hook around the post of the first one, kind of letting the fabric bend if you need to. Be sure to make these stitches nice and loose. Don't let your fabric bunch up because you made tight stitches. And the way to make a looser stitch, when you yarn over and pull up, that's where you make it. Pull up a smidge more right there. Yarn over and pull up. Yarn over and pull up. That's how you make an adjustment for a looser stitch. Okay, so here are my 4 front post treble crochets. 1, 2, kind of behind, 3, 4 in front. Then I'll make my next half double crochet into the marked space. Move up the stitch marker. And then do a half double crochet in each stitch all the way around, and I'll meet you at the end. All right, so I'm at the end of my round 10. I've counted all my stitches. I'm going to move up my stitch marker to the last stitch of the round. And then I hope this shows up on the camera angle. You can see the hat is kind of starting to pull down around the sides since we're no longer doing increases. And that's what's going to create a hat shape. So everything is going according to plan, which is always great when you're crocheting. So that was the end of round 10. I'm going to slip stitch into this first stitch to join. Now we're ready to start round 11. So I apologize if there's a slight bump in the continuity here, but I decided I wanted to demonstrate this a little differently. I'm not going to complete round 11 right now, and that's because once you complete round 11, then you just do rounds 8, 9, 10, and 11 a second time, and then you do rounds 8, 9, and 10, and you finish the body of the hat on around 10, and then you begin the ribbing. And you don't need to watch me do those same rows over and over and complete the same cable pattern over and over. So I'm just going to stop here at the end of round 10 to demonstrate the ribbing. So we're going to say that this is the end of round 18, which is the same instructions as round 10. And I'm going to slip stitch. And then we're going to begin the ribbing. So I'm going to change hooks down to a 5.0. I forgot my pattern, but I believe I did 6 chains. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So chain 6, and then we're going to do 5 single crochets back down. And I think that you'll like yourself better when you get to the end of the round if you work into the back bump. So you turn your chain over. Here on the front, you've got 2 legs of the V of the stitch. Turn it over. You'll see the back bumps or the back dashes. If you work into those, it'll make it easier for you to finish the round later. You don't have to, but that's my suggestion. So there's 3, 4, sorry, I'm having a little bit of trouble seeing that through the camera. There's 4, and then 5. And we can take out our stitch marker now. So a few minutes ago, my camera overheated, my phone overheated, and I had to stop the video. I opened the window so it'd be nice and cool in here. But I live not very far from the hospital, and it's still during COVID time, and there's helicopters going by constantly. And one just did, and if you can hear that, I really apologize. So I've got my chain 6. I did 5 single crochet, and then we're going to do a slip stitch into the next 2 stitches on the hat. Don't slip stitch here where your chain came from. Start at the next full stitch. So slip stitch 1 and slip stitch a second. And then we're going to turn, and now we're going to do a back loop only single crochet into each of these 5 single crochets. So we're going to skip those slip stitches and start here on the first single crochet. Here's your back loop, here's your front loop. Normally you'd go under both of those. You can see the 2 loops there. We're only going to go through the back one, and whether it's the front or the back one is always in relation to how we're looking at that individual stitch at that individual moment. So even as we turn, it's always going to be the stitch that's in the back. That's the way we're looking at them. So done 5 single crochet. Going to chain 1 and turn and do 5 single crochet in the back loop only. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then I'm going to slip stitch into the next 2 stitches. Slip stitch, of course, being insert your hook, yarn over and pull up a loop and pull it through the loop on your hook. Then we're going to turn, skip those 2 slip stitches, and sometimes I almost find it easier to count from the top to make sure that I've got the right amount, because those slip stitches can kind of disappear. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 single crochets that we need to make. So there's where the first one goes. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And we're going to continue like this all the way around. Chain 1, 5 single crochet in the back loop only. And then for speediness sake, we're going to stop here. I've got another hat that I've been working on where I have gone around and I have done the ribbing and I'm almost to the end. So we'll just pick up here to show you how to finish. So I'm going to do down my last round, or my last row, and do my 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And this is my stitch marker that I left in from before that marked my last stitch of the round. So now we can take that out. And we're going to slip stitch into that last stitch. And then what we're going to do is fold the 2 pieces to you, up against each other, towards you, so that now you're looking at the inside of the ribbing. And we're going to slip stitch these together. And again, I find it easier to work from the top to make sure that I get my hook in the right spot. And when we worked into the back hump on our first row, you can see that that leaves the V's free so that they look the same on each side. You can see that these got a little tighter because they were the chain, but that's not a problem. So let's count down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're going to slip stitch right there. Keep that stitch in your mind. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So insert your hook here into the 5th stitch from the top. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Insert your hook there. So now you've got the loop on your hook, 2 loops from this stitch, 2 loops from this stitch. Pull through all of them and slip stitch. Then we're going to do the same with the next one. Go through both legs of the V. We're not doing back loop only anymore. On the front piece and the back piece, and slip stitch through all of them. I'll do that on 3rd stitch. 4th stitch, and the last stitch. Slip stitch that through, and then pull that piece on through, and then we'll weave in the ends there. And then that becomes nearly invisible. And because you really have to be looking to see that seam that we've made up the top, you can really wear the cable anywhere that you like. You know, you can put it straight in the front, off to the left, off to the right. It works however you want. So the next thing I want to do is show you how to attach the pom-pom. Right, to make the pom-pom, to attach the pom-pom, we're just going to make a tiny little crochet circle. Start the circle however you like, but leave a decent tail. Here I'm going to chain 2, and you can use whatever stitch you like here. I like half double crochets. They're like my standard, if I need to make something quickly, let's make half double crochets kind of stitch. And I'm going to make 8 or 10 half double crochets into the 2nd loop from the hook. This is going to look exactly like when we started the top of the hat. Only here it doesn't really matter how many stitches I get. I'm just going to kind of go until the center loop is full, so to speak. And then I'm going to slip stitch to join. And cut my yarn. Just need this tiny little circle here. And then I'm going to take this outside piece and weave in the ends. Doesn't need to be perfect. I'm just going to go in and out of these top loops right where you'd normally put your hook. I don't think that that's necessarily the best place to weave in an end when you're trying to really hide the ends, but here they're not going to show. It's quick, it's easy. That's how I'm going to go for it. So now we've got our tiny crochet circle with the long end coming out of the middle. Now I'm going to take this hat where we just demonstrated the ribbing, and I've turned it inside out, so you can see this is my right side with my cable. I'm going to flip that over and work on the inside. So we're going to sew our little circle that we just made to the circle where we started the hat. Except I don't want to sew it using these outside circles, because what we're going to do is loop the loop of the pom-pom around that. So when I sew it together, I'm going to try to catch some of these inside pieces and sew it onto here. And again, luckily, it doesn't need to be perfect because no one's going to see this. So we'll just kind of catch a few. They're not behaving well. Catch a few of the stitches under here. Pull a thread through. Catch a few of the stitches on the back of here. Pull it through. And just kind of repeat that around. I'm sure that there are plenty of people who really enjoy seaming and stitching and really like to have perfection in exactly where they put their stitches. I'm not one of those people. If it's not going to show, I'm just going to do the minimum necessary. Is that bad? Don't really care. All right. So I've pretty well gone all the way around that, sewing the middle bottom of my little circle to the top of the hat. So that's stuck down on there. And I think I'll go in and out of some of these stitches on the hat a little bit just to kind of weave in this last end, make sure it's good and secure. So I'll go through maybe 3 this way, turn around and go through a couple this way. You can snip that off. I can actually see my other end kind of poking out here, so just give that a little bit better of a snip too. All right, so here's the inside of our hat. Here's our little button. So we're going to take our pom-pom. It has a loop. Go from the outside of our hat. Sorry, from the inside. Take your crochet hook. Put it through one of these stitches as close to your button as you can, whether you can get it in there or in the top here. It really doesn't matter because it's not going to show. I'm going to try to get it to come straight out the middle of the hat there. Grab your loop of your pom-pom, pull it through to the inside of your hat. And then just wrap it around your little circle that you've made. Depending on the length of your loop, you might wrap it around a couple times. But you just loop that on there. Oops. Get it all turned right side out. Here's another end I need to weave in later. And there is our finished hat with the pom-pom. I hope you enjoyed making this hat with me. I really like making simple basic hats with just a little added touch to make it a little bit more interesting. If you have any questions, please let me know in the comments. I will do my best to help you. And thanks for joining me.